This is the Fantasy Football 411 podcast. The best place to get the latest 411 on your fantasy football team. Here are your hosts, Alex and Amanda.
Welcome back, my dudes and dudettes.
To another episode of the Fantasy Football 411 podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Alex.
Oh, Amanda.
And this is the best place to get the latest 411 for your fantasy football team, believe it or not, based on this intro. But in this episode, we're going to give you a recap on Week 11. We're also going to give you our takes on the best waivers for Week 12, and we're going to get into the Week 12 matchups. Now, I did okay in one league this past week, got lucky. The other league, I am an Eckler owner. It's usually if you're a Jonathan Taylor or Eckler owner this week, then you won. But the other league, I ended up losing in that I have him in. But got lucky and had McCaffrey and Zeke, in this Sleepless Sundays league that I did all right in. How about you?
Yeah, won in one league and gonna lose in another.
So same thing. Yep, same thing. It was another weird week. You're gonna hear that. In the news that we have coming up. Some of the things that are even going to happen in Week 12 are a little different, but stay calm. We're approaching the playoffs. Don't overthink certain positions. You're not really going to drop certain players that aren't performing if you drafted them in the first round. I mean, it just hasn't happened yet. Look at Allen Robinson. He is borderline droppable at this point. And, he hasn't really played, he didn't play this past week, but he is a player that people are contemplating dropping. I would hold on to players like that. This is the normal time of the year where they kick in if they haven't already in the early on season. But either way, for any of that, let's get into the latest 411. So, latest news.
Due to concussion protocol and the NFL's COVID policy, it is not looking great to see CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper on Thursday's game.
For the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Doesn't look like they're going to be playing. So you're looking at, we'll get into some of the players you can pick up, but this is one of the weird things I was mentioning about Week 12 and just some of the things that happened. Like Week 11, if you had a CeeDee Lamb, you were hoping on, DFS, if you were banking on him, who would have thought he would have gotten a, concussion and gotten taken out? So it's just weird things like this happen. Cowboys ended up losing a lot. That wasn't a crazy game. When we get to the over-unders, she beat me 6-1 this past week in over-under, so she's wearing the invisible crown. Nobody saw that coming. I didn't see it coming.
Just sign me up to
I was just hoping.
gamble.
I was just waiting for you to say, "Oh, I saw it coming," but there's no way you did. It was just a crazy week. But that being said, there were some contract extensions in there too. I didn't really list them, but Cortland Sutton signed a 4-year, $60 million deal. Dallas Goedert is now officially the tight end for the Philadelphia Eagles moving forward. He got an extension as well. So keep in mind there are other extensions going on. I just don't think it impacts fantasy value this year. I think that's more so next year. So getting into some fun stats.
Running back Jonathan Taylor went 32 for 185 and rushed four touchdowns.
And received 1 touchdown. Monster game. I bet on him 2 years ago, was it, that he was starting to come in? And I was like, oh, he's going to be a good running back. I kept hearing about it. I didn't really watch a lot of college tape, so I can't really give myself credit on this one. But it's almost like those early on when you get there, and I feel like I do it every few years. I get these young running backs, young wide receivers, and it's like, why can't we be in a dynasty league in this league so I could just hold on to these players? If you have Jonathan Taylor, you're lucky. You saw why this past week. Another player on the board here is wide receiver Justin Jefferson. Went 8 for 169 and 2 touchdowns. Another monster game.
Wide receiver Elijah Moore, he went 8 for 141 with 1 touchdown.
And quarterback Aaron Rodgers, 23 for 33 for 385 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Moving on to our injuries, we have wide receiver A.J. Brown left the game with a chest injury.
It was weird. He went into the game with like a hand injury.
His hand was hurt, and then he came back into the game, and then had to go back out with a chest injury.
Well, and they said it was like a shoulder or something, but it ended up being a chest. So yeah, it's weird. I mean, that's something to monitor. Wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, like we said, left with a concussion. He's likely to not play in the Thanksgiving game on Thursday because of the concussion protocol. Fingers crossed, maybe he'll clear it somehow. I don't know. I don't really know the specifics, but that's just what I've heard.
Yeah, they said to clear concussion protocol within 4 days is probably unlikely. So, QB Justin Fields left the game with a bruised rib.
One?
Just one rib bruise.
Okay. Which rib was it?
His bottom right.
So, yeah, this one seemed to favor Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton looked a lot better out there controlling that team than Justin Fields did. So I'm curious to see how this one affects the team moving forward, whether they just kind of sit him when he is eligible to come back or, how they play it, especially with Nagy. Nagy's getting a lot of crap. Like, didn't you say they were chanting fire Nagy?
Oh, yeah, they were.
Yeah, so it's kind of a disaster right now there in Chicago, but hopefully Justin Fields recovers from that soon. Wide receiver Tyreek Hill was limping at the end of the game. I searched. I couldn't find anything on this injury. It's probably nothing substantial if we haven't heard anything about it, but just worth noting if you are a Tyreek owner.
Running back Michael Carter left the game with an ankle injury, and he's expected to miss 2 to 3 weeks. I like how I got all the Jets news
just
today
noticed
while
that.
I'm wearing my hat.
Oh, yeah, how ironic. I didn't even notice that. Wide receiver Jamal Agnew for the Jacksonville Jaguars ended up leaving with a hip injury. He's now out for the remainder of the season. Again, it is the Jaguars. I don't know how this affects anybody substantially more than the other. You still have Marvin Jones there. You still have Laviska Shenault. I think the value is still the same. I don't think it changes that much.
And running back Jordan Howard left with a knee injury, expected to miss week 12.
Not that it matters too much at this point. I was hesitant on even putting that in there just because Miles Sanders is back. But worth noting, another one that's not in there that I'll mention, Rashad Penny was supposed to be, I think he was going to be the lead backer right behind Alex Collins this week for Seattle. He had this bomb play in the beginning of the game, ended up in that play injuring his hamstring and going out. And because I was wondering why I saw DJ Dallas get a touchdown later on. That's probably why. But this is worth noting. I mean, DJ Dallas is on my radar just because he is a good running back. I've heard he is the best that they have there. And now that Chris Carson is out with season-ending neck surgery, he has surgery on his neck that's season-ending, and he might not even play in the beginning of next year. I'm curious to see how they utilize this young running back core they have, like DJ Dallas or like Homer, Travis Homer. So that's worth noting. We're not going to mention any of them on today's hot and cold segment, but I just wanted to throw that out there before we got there. Starting out with our cold waivers, running back Dontrell Hilliard had 16 fantasy points in Week 11, but it's Tennessee. It's a three-headed monster, it looks like, for the backfield there. Don't know really who to trust. I mean, Deontay Foreman, what did he end up with?
It was like 5 points or something.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. Like Deontay Foreman was supposed to be the one this week, and then this happened. So,
although Peterson didn't do much either, so I think it could have just been the game layout.
Game script, yeah.
I don't know.
True. So, would you recommend Dontrell Hilliard for a pickup, or?
I mean, I probably wouldn't, just because it does seem messy.
Right.
You don't know who's gonna get the ball what week. So
being here in the cold segment, I'd say $0 bid. Anybody you're going to put money on is most likely going to be in the hot segment here. But so that's Dontrell Hilliard.
Wide receiver Nick Westbrook, 7 for 8 for 170 yards and 17 fantasy points. If you're desperate for a wide receiver, he may be a good pickup, especially if AJ Brown is out for next week.
Tight end Adam Troutman went 5 for 8 for 59 yards and 1 touchdown. He had like 16 plus fantasy points as well, but I think he ended up leaving with something minor, like an injury. So that's worth noting, but I'm throwing it in here in the cold segment to let you know that he is there and that he's probably going to make an impact here and there. We've been hearing rumors, but now it seems that he's starting to get factored in more. I'm buying it. I just don't need a tight end, so I'm not going heavy for him. But if you want to take a chance, throw like $2 down to get him. I know I'm kind of contradicting myself saying he's cold, but throw money down. You can on the cold players, just don't throw too much.
And we have wide receiver Cedric Wilson as a 1-week rental.
Especially if CeeDee Lamb doesn't play, which doesn't look likely. Because now you're looking, Cedric Wilson has a good chemistry with Dak already. He's getting those quick dishes. I mean, Michael Gallup is going to get some work too, obviously.
Yeah, obviously if Michael Gallup is not rostered, pick him up over Cedric Wilson.
Yeah.
But I think Gallup is probably rostered in a lot of leagues. So Wilson is probably a good pickup.
The only thing I was worried about in that situation, which I didn't really look too much into it either, because I don't know if there is anything out there, but like which one's going to factor in more to replace so-and-so? You know what I mean? Like, how like Michael Gallup kind of already has his role. Like maybe Cedric Wilson is going to come in to play for CeeDee Lamb or play for Amari Cooper, run those same routes. Like Michael Gallup might already be doing something that Michael Gallup was already doing. Like that's why I was thinking that. I mean, maybe they're going to make Michael Gallup switch up, put him on the other side of the field or something. You never know. But that's one thing worth noting. And if you are interested in either one of these guys, look into that. Who's hot? Now, this one we threw in another segment. I don't want you to think that we're repetitive with these players, but this one is worth repeating because we have said it on the past episode. I think it was the last episode, was wide receiver Elijah Moore on the Jets. He's a must-have at this point. I mean, his point totals for the past few weeks, I believe, were like 29, 23. Like, I think his lowest was like 10. So it's like he's a good, serviceable wide receiver moving forward. This coming up week, he is facing the
Eagles.
Or no, Texans this week,
Oh.
Then the Eagles. So the Eagles are a tough matchup, but every matchup after that is easy. I'm going heavy for Elijah Moore this week. I need him. We're actually orchestrating a trade as we speak. It's going to be Rashad Bateman for Tony Pollard, just so I can have my Zeke handcuff in case anything happens. Had a little scare in the game. Don't want to deal with that again. So Rashad Bateman, as much as it pains me to get rid of him, I'm sending him to her for Tony Pollard. That being said, I need somebody to fill in my backup wide receiver role. Elijah Moore is a perfect fit. I'm not even going to say throw down what and you should pick him up because you should already have him. But if he is there, absolutely, I'm going to go like at least 30% at him.
Running back Ty Johnson if Carter misses time. Otherwise, he's a cold pickup. So obviously now we know that Carter will be missing 2 to 3 weeks. So I have Ty Johnson, and I will probably be playing him this week in hopes that Coleman stays the F off.
Right, yeah. I mean, for PPR, like we were talking about earlier, I think Ty Johnson is the PPR back there. Tevin Coleman's just going to run. He's not going to catch too many passes, I don't think. But Ty Johnson, yeah, I think that's a good play. Quarterback Cam Newton is playing, as we said last episode. He showed up, 30 fantasy points, 21 for 27 for 189 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown. I think here on out you could play him as a quarterback. And, I mean, Ty Johnson, I'd be throwing down maybe $5 to $10 to get him. Cam Newton, relatively the same. Wouldn't dump the bank on these guys. I mean, Ty Johnson's temporary until, Michael Carter comes back.
And I'll just throw, I know we mentioned Agnew's injury, but I do think Laviska Chanel is a pretty good pickup.
Oh, okay.
Because he would be the 2 now, Marvin Jones, and then
True.
Laviska he would be the 2. So hopefully that will kind of.
How much would you put down on him?
I don't know.
Couple bucks?
Yeah, I mean, maybe 15%.
Moving on to the Week 12 matchups.
Week 12 bye weeks. We have Arizona Cardinals and the Kansas City Chiefs.
And the first game on Thursday is Chicago Bears at the Detroit Lions. The over-under is 41, and we are both going under.
So I do want to make a note. So this week, you put these in here, and normally you put them in here, and you put your picks for over and under, and you did not. So I had to go first. Now, was that your strategy? Because you wanted to see what I was going to do first?
No, but I was thinking about that when I did mine, that yours was already in there, and I was like, this is definitely a different look. Like, it made me think different, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to ignore what she says, put mine in, and then I'll see what she says.
I don't know. I think last week, because I got 6 over you, you're like, I'm just going to repeat.
Oh, I should have if I didn't do that. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, although evidently I didn't do that because the first one we did the same, both unders on that. I just don't think it's going to be exciting. Chicago Bears, Detroit Lions, I think we're playing against their secondary QB again. I don't think it's going to be a high score at all.
Then we have the Raiders against the Cowboys with a 50.5 over and under. I went over and you went under.
Yeah, I'm taking the under on this just because there's a few of these this week. I'm going to let you know ahead of time. There's a few of these trap games that I called last week, like the Kansas City-Dallas game, that I was like, oh, this is a trap game. Well, let's go over on it. It was stupid. I should have went under. It would have been 5-2 in that case if I did that. I'm going to do that more this week. The obvious ones that seem like trap games, I'm taking. You also have to consider Las Vegas Raiders are playing Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Cowboys don't have 2 of their starting wide receivers. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. The Buffalo Bills are at New Orleans Saints.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The Buffalo Bills at New Orleans, 46.5 over-under.
New Orleans Saints.
This is Thanksgiving night. I believe it's an 8:20 game. 46.5. I'm going under.
Yeah, just over.
Which I could see that. Bills they have to be mad after how much Jonathan Taylor was running on them.
Tampa Bay at the Colts with a 50.5 over and under, and we both took the under. I chose the under because I feel like with the Colts defense, I don't think it's going to get that high.
Yeah, I think both sides. Yeah, I think, and the Colts have been looking good lately too. But I could see it. I could see them being competitive, but yeah, 50.5, that's high. The New York Jets are at the Houston Texans. Over under on that is 44.5. I'm going over on this. I'm pretty confident. I mean, Texans just showed up this past week against Tennessee, so I think they're going to do the same thing against the Jets, and I think the Jets have the potential to run the score up a bit. And from a fan's perspective, they better win this one. So 44.5, I'm going over.
Yeah, I took the under just because it's the Jets.
Oh, okay. Wait, have faith. You have faith every other week, just not this week.
No, I mean we almost beat the Dolphins. We were almost there.
That's our weekly line. We almost won.
We almost
we almost did.
I mean I could see it going over 44.5, but I'm going with under. Philadelphia Eagles at the New York Giants with a 46.5 over and under, and we both took the under.
This reminds me too. I think that's going to be a back and forth game, but we are recording this before Tampa Bay Buccaneers face off against the Giants on Monday night. Mm-hmm. So if we didn't mention anything about that game, that's why. But yeah, Philly against New York in Week 12, not going to be over 46.5 is what we're predicting. Carolina Panthers at the Miami Dolphins, over under on that is 42.5. I went under on that just because I think both defenses are pretty competitive, and I think that they're going to keep the score low.
Oh, I picked the over. Tennessee Titans at New England Patriots with a 44.5 over and under, and I took the under.
And I took the over on this, mainly because the Patriots have been running up the score in every game that they played. I mean, this past week was 25-0, but add like 21 onto that 25 for Week 12. That's what the Titans are going to put up. So 25-21, 46, that's over. So
interesting. Thank you for breaking that one down for us.
That's my theory there.
Got it.
Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cincinnati Bengals, 45.5 over under. We both went over on this.
Atlanta Falcons against the Jacksonville Jaguars with a 46.5 over and under, and we both took the under. I think both teams are very underwhelming right now. So
yeah.
just
Keeping it low. Hey, maybe Cordell Patterson will be back. I like that.
Maybe.
That'll be nice. Los Angeles Chargers are going to Denver to play the Broncos. Over-under is 48.5. I'm going under on this just because this is one of those trap games, which makes you think, like, oh, both of these teams have potential. And the Broncos just gave out a few extensions. Their players are happy now, loaded with money. Nope, don't see it. It's going to be low. If anything, maybe like 21-20, 4, somewhere around there. So it'll be just under 48.5. I just don't think it's getting over.
Yeah, I took the over because my Chargers lately have been doing really well. And when I say lately, I mean the one game from last night. So I hope that it just keeps it up because I got some Chads on my team. Los Angeles Rams against the Green Bay Packers with a 48.5 over and under, and I went for the over.
And I went under on this. Trap game potential. Minnesota Vikings are going to San Francisco to play the 49ers. Over-under on this game is 48.5. I'm taking the under on this. You notice how all the trap games, all the ones that have trap game potential, I'm going under on. I'm not falling.
You go ahead.
I'm not falling for any of it. I think all these games I'm taking the under on. I think they're going to be good fantasy-wise. You can play any player. I just don't see it going over. Like 48.5 is high, and these teams have the potential to put up that score. I just don't, based on how certain players have been playing and based on the odds of these games being high score, I don't know. I got to bet against it.
I'm going for the over.
Yeah.
Get those Vikings
points.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Cleveland Browns against the Ravens with a 46.5 over and under, and we both took the under.
Yeah. I mean, I hope Lamar is back, especially for your sake, for Rashad Bateman.
Better be back.
Right. Seattle Seahawks at the Washington football team for Monday night. The over-under on this, 45.5. I'm taking the under on this.
I took the over on this.
Yeah. You seem really excited about it. You got something to say or no?
I don't know. The Seahawks have been funny lately. I don't know. I could see this one going under too. This is a trap game.
It has potential. I mean, I could see it going
trap game button.
So that's it for the Week 12 matchups, and that's it for this episode of the Fantasy Football 411 podcast. You can follow us on any of the social media platforms at FanFootball411. You could also subscribe to this podcast on YouTube. Feel free to follow us anywhere. Feel free to hit us up with any questions or comments. Thank you for tuning in.
That's a wrap on Week 11. See you Week 12.